Hello, everybody. This your girl, Blessed Abundantly here. Right now, let me talk about this. First of all, I want to say thank you for subscribing to the channel. Please like and share the video. Second of all, there has been some deaths in both gospel industry and the secular industry. Praying for the family of Rance Allen. As we heard on yesterday, Rance Allen died at the age of 71. And then also, uh, there was a legendary actor, Sean Connery, has passed away at age 90. So let's talk about Sean Connery, who is better known as James Bond. Sean Connery, I'm going to read this article here. It says Sean Connery's tragic death explained. Now, when I read through it, it didn't tell what he died from. But let's read what it says. On Saturday, October 31st, which was yesterday, the family of the legendary actor Sean Connery shared the sad news that the James Bond actor had died at the age of 90. While a cause of death was not immediately disclosed, it was revealed that he passed away in sleep in the Bahamas after being unwell for some time, as reported by the BBC. After Connery officially retired from acting in 2006, he largely stayed out of the limelight and seemed to enjoy spending time with his family in the Bahamas, where he made his home. However, his later years did include a couple of major health scares. Prior to his retirement, Connery underwent treatment for throat cancer in the 90s. Then in March 2006, he had a tumor removed from his kidney, according to The Guardian. Since then, any news surrounding the 007 actor's health has been kept private, but the family statement suggests he was dealing with undisclosed issues at the time of his death. Unless his family chooses to share the exact cause of the actor's death at a later date, fans may never know what health struggles the actors went through in his final years. But what's most important is that his retirement years were happy ones for Connery, who enjoyed golfing and spending time with his second wife, artist Micheline Rockabroom. Despite being one of the most recognizable actors in the world, Connery managed to pull off the impossible in his golden years. He lived a private life. After he and Rockabroom made their home in the Bahamas, the actor rarely made public appearances. He did make a rare appearance in August 2017 at New York U.S. Open tennis tournament. At the time, he appeared happy to have his face shown on the screen at the game as 007 famous theme played, according to U.S. Today. In terms of acting, Connery's final live-action role was in 2003, featured The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. At the time, he revealed that the filming experience soured him on Hollywood as a whole. The last one I did, Gentlemen, director Stephen, I believe it's Stephen Norrington, was given $85 million to make a movie in Prague, but unfortunately he wasn't certified before he started because he would have been arrested for insanity, Connery told a reporter in a 2007 interview, according to Hollywood Reporter. So we worked as well as we could and ended up being heavily involved in the editing and trying to salvage. He was offered other roles after The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, including a part in the fourth Indiana film, but he declined them all because, as he said on his official website, in the end, retirement is just too much fun. And as you know, he played in the Indiana Jones films that was of the 80s as Indiana Jones' father. Ultimately, his final role was actually a voice acting part in the 2012 animated film Sir Billy. For the actor who originated the role of James Bond, won an Oscar in 1988 and was declared the sexiest man of the century by People in 1999 and was then knighted in 2000. The long and happy retirement was well deserved. Whatever health struggles he faced in his final days will likely remain private. What's most important to Connery's fan is the actor's long and impressive career and the legacy that he leaves behind. Now, this article was written in March 21 of 2019. And it says Sean Connery is the title is Why You Don't See Sean Connery on Screen Anymore. Okay, now we know why we don't. He did retire in 2006, but we ain't never see him again on screen. We'll see the movies that he had already did prior to 2006, and that's because, he's no longer with us. Sean Connery is basically a living legend. For starters, his name will always be inseparable from James Bond, thanks to the 1962 through 1983 run that saw him starring in 7 films as the suave secret agent. Later in his career, he appeared in critically acclaimed films like The Untouchable, which earned him an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, and popular franchise like Indiana Jones. His achievements have garnered some serious accolades. He has been voted both the greatest living Scot, Scotland's greatest living natural or national treasure. In 1999, People magazine declared him the sexiest man of the century. And to top it off, he was officially knighted in 2000. Connery worked his way up from his first gig as a milkman in Edinburgh to become one of the world's most accomplished actors. It's the kind of rags to riches story that would inspire any young artist, but today Connery is far more likely to Connery is far more likely to be spending time with his family at home in the Bahamas than rubbing elbows with other big names on the red carpet. In addition, several scandals may have prompted him to stay out of the spotlight. Here's why you don't see Sean Connery at the movies anymore, and why you probably won't catch him on the silver screen again. Well, for one, he died yesterday, but this was written last year. He probably wasn't feeling well then. He probably wasn't, allegedly. So it says, breaking the leg no more. Connery hasn't appeared in a film since 2003 when he starred in The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. His absence was noticed in the following years, but Connery kept quiet about his future plans for some time, which left fans wondering whether he would ever retire to acting. Ever return to acting. My bad. So, which left fans wondering whether he would ever return to acting. Well, not never again. But anyway, I don't mean to be funny. He's just dead now. And, he was up in age. And finally, in 2006, he said that he had, in fact, retired officially, confirming his status after receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award from the American Film Institute. In 2007, he reaffirmed that he was truly done with acting. In an interview with Heat Vision, Connery said that he had considered working on another film, but ultimately he decided against it. At this point, Connery doesn't have anything left to accomplish in Hollywood. He's already built his legacy, retiring when he was ready rather than continuing to make films solely for the money definitely seems like a better option. After all, what could top being James Bond and Indiana Jones' dad? I didn't think they had any more on him. I didn't think they had any more on him, people. Okay, so an ignominious exit. Connery never explicitly stated his reasons for retirement, but it seems that a number of different factors made him decide it was finally time to hang up his hat. His last film, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, was panned by critics, and rather than picking up one more role to end his career on a better note, he chose to follow his initial instinct to walk away. Connery was very frustrated with his experience working with director Stephen Norrington on Gentlemen, going as far as to say that Norrington should have been arrested for insanity. Connery stated that he did his best with his role, but he knew that the entire production was going off the rails, and that critics and audience alike probably wouldn't be too pleased. He said that he got heavily involved in editing and trying to salvage the end result. His efforts may have helped somewhat, but overall the film was considered a flop. Not wanting to deal with that type of stress anymore, Connery walked away from Hollywood and hasn't really looked back. Henry Jones Sr. and the rejection of the Crystal Skull. After struggling on the set of The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and his subsequent decision to retire, one offered did pick Connery's interest or pique Connery's interest in returning to the big screen. He got in touch with Steven Spielberg, who spoke with him about reprising his role as Indiana Jones' father, Dr. Henry Jones, from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Connery strongly considered the request to appear in Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull, but in the end, he decided it wasn't worth coming out of retirement. He had some creative differences with Spielberg as far as the character and the proposed direction of the plot, but most importantly, he didn't want to deal with the pressures of acting again. If anything could have pulled me out of retirement, it would have been Indiana Jones' film, Connery wrote in his statement on his website. But in the end, retirement is just too much fun. Invasion of Hollywood Idiots. Towards the end of his acting career, Connery became as exasperated with the film industry as a whole, and he skewered the directors and studios who he saw as cranking out lackluster films and wasting great talent. I'm fed up with the idiots. The ever widening gap between people who know how to make films and the people whose green light the movies. Connery laminated in 2005 interview. Years later, in an interview with Heat Vision, he elaborated on his previous statement, saying that unfortunately these idiots had cornered the market in has cornered the market in the film industry. He went on to name George Clooney, Steven Soderbergh, and Sean Penn as people who were working hard to produce more creative, high quality films rather than pouring money into box office bombs or lazy, uninspired scripts. It's true that Hollywood seems to be oversaturated with remakes and sequels these days. The industry has transformed completely since Connery started acting, and he's clearly unhappy with the current state of things. Not enough zeros in the world. There was actually a time when it seemed like Connery made stage a career comeback. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. You have to forgive me. Forgive me. It's early in the morning. Forgive me. There was actually a time when it seemed like Connery might stage a comeback, a career comeback. And he even implied that it wouldn't be totally impossible for a director to lure him back in front of the cameras. However, he made it clear that doing so would require a serious paycheck, quipping that it would almost need a mafia like offer. I couldn't refuse to do another film. But now it appears that this window has totally closed. According to Connery's lifetime or longtime friend, I'm sorry. According to Connery's longtime friend and fellow actor Michael Caine, Connery has shut the door on any potential offer. In 2011, Caine told the Telegraph he won't make another film now. I just asked him. He said no, I'll never do it. It seemed that Connery could not be more clear about the fact that his acting career is long over despite the sizable paycheck that he could probably still command. Although some of his fans may hold out hopes that there could be another film on the horizon, it looked like the chances are slim to none. Well, he was old. I mean, can't blame it. He retired. He was old. He retired 14 years ago. I mean, I'm sorry. I hate to say this, and I should have turned off my notification because when I need to buy them, thing just came up. Anyway, he was old. He retired at 76. He wasn't to stay out of the film. Of course, he did the voice for the animated film Sir Billy in 2012, but he was old. He did that 8 years ago, which made him 82. And people, when they get up in age, they want to retire. I know some people still work, you know, in their old age and stuff, and that's probably because they didn't properly save their money. You know, you can't be living off your kids and all that stuff. You know, so people wind up working in their old age. Now, with Hollywood and stuff, some people just don't. There are some people who do bad business deals with folks who scam them right out of their money. There, and thank God this didn't happen to Sean Connery. That he was wise with his money. He was able to retire. He was able to enjoy his life. You know, he lived in the Bahamas. So, I mean, you know, people want that type of life. At the end of their life, they want to be happy. They want to, you know, have enough money to live off of. So when you are young in your 20s, you know, and a lot of us didn't do this in our 20s, especially people who grew up in the hood. You know, you wasn't taught to start saving your money at 20 and stuff, you know, to do the 401k, you know, you're young and all that stuff, you know. But I'm telling people now who's watching this, um, save your money. Start doing a 401k. Start investing and doing things. Think about your life as you get older. Think about what could possibly happen. Of course, we don't, you know, we're not speaking no sickness or anybody, but when people start getting older, you know, your body, I don't want to say deteriorating, because you do have to exercise more, and that's another thing. Start exercising. I need to continue to exercise. Start eating right. Uh, do these things so that you can live a long and healthy life. You don't want to end up in a nurse home, um, not being able to move or anything like that because you had a stroke or something. I mean, I worked in a nurse home. I have seen people that was up in age, and a lot of them, they tragic. Their older years are just tragic. They have to depend on people. They're not being treated right in these nursing homes at times. I have seen some things. I have seen where a patient actually got hit by a nurse's aide, and I was there, and I should have reported it, you know. But the type of person that this nurse's aide was, I'm sure later on, it finally caught up to her. Um, and that's one thing. You can't hit these people, but these people in these nurse homes, some of them get abused, they get hit. Some of them, I have seen that even though you're not supposed to, you could go to jail. It doesn't matter what the patient does to you. I have seen people who had Alzheimer's, people who had dementia. Uh, they just they didn't know who they was one minute, then the next minute they came back. And then there you had your alert residents who actually tried to beat. Some residents almost tried to beat me up, but I couldn't put my hands on him or nothing like that because I would be locked up. He's a resident. I had to call for help. I had to get a nurse. And this was a pretty strong man, too. But as time went on, his body started deteriorating and he started being a total care right before he died. That scene where a patient was sent out to the hospital and came back. They sent her out for a call or something like that, but she came back dying. They brought her back to die, and she had gangrene on her. Her whole foot was gangrene. It was like we had to be careful, and nothing but dead skin. It was totally black. That was the first time I ever seen gangrene. So let me read on. So with Sean Connery, I don't blame him for not coming back. And this was written in 2019, last year. Um, he was 89. We got these presidents now. These people that's running for president that's well in their 70s. Joe Biden's like 77. He almost 80. You got people that's in the Senate that's in their 80s. That's our lawmakers that's in their 80s and stuff. Um, but this is what I'm saying is that, but if they want to do that, as long as they healthy and happy, go for it. I have nothing against. I'm not trying to discriminate against old people or nothing like that. But there are some people who don't take care of their body in their younger years, and they wind up in a nursing home being a total care. Um, they wind up dealing with stuff. Like if you smoke every day, that's gonna catch up with you. Eventually, that might turn into lung cancer. Emphysema. Um, you might have other health issues, problems with your heart and stuff. So let's read this. Connery didn't just bring back, I'm sorry, Connery didn't just back out of acting because he was so disappointed in his experience shooting the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. He also wasn't satisfied with any of the parts he was being offered at that point in his career. Let me remind you guys, I'm not reading, I don't have my glasses on, so you have to excuse my reading. No matter how talented an actor is, it's a given that casting directors will undoubtedly see them differently as they get older. And that exactly what happened to Connery. Now, Connery, he was a guy who he'd been in the film industry for a while that he could command the amount of money that he wanted in order to be in the film. If they asked him to be in a film back, around the time that he was retired, you could tell him, well, you give me give me X amount of dollars, give me 300 million, give me, I was just saying, give me 50 million for doing this film. Whatever that film is, if he's working with a big time director. Now I know a low budget film he wouldn't probably play in. It would be probably something like the Indiana Jones, which he backed out of, but I'm sure they would have paid him heavily because the Indiana Jones film industry, the films and all of that made a ton of money. Harrison Ford, he got a ton of money. He did Indiana Jones, Star Wars. He did those franchise. That's what they're called, franchise. The Indiana Jones franchise, the Star Wars franchise. So, I mean, and I will talk about those films later on because all of us have watched Star Wars and Indiana Jones. And y'all be thinking I'm deep and holy when I mention about these films and the black magic that's in these films and stuff. They are culture films. But anyway, let me go back to Sean Connery. So he could command whatever money he want to receive. Of course, he ain't no playing no low budget film, but he was totally done after 2006 and just retired out. Okay, Michael Caine offered up some more details about the reasons behind his friend's retirement, telling the Telegraph the movie business retired him because he didn't want to play small parts about old men and they weren't offering him any young parts and romantic leads. Well, who the well, I don't mean to be funny, but who in the world want to make out on film with somebody that's in the 80s and 90s? I mean, what young woman want? I mean, you might have some that's desperate for money that's starting out. Like some young girl who just starting in the movie and stuff. It's like, okay, or somebody that might be addicted to some drugs or something like that nobody in the movie industry don't have a clue about. And so they might say, okay, I need that money, so let me just go here and do this romantic role with somebody that's old enough to be my granddad. It's, who would want to, I wouldn't give him no romantic role with no young person anyway. I mean, he would have to be with an old lady and do what old couples do, you know. Some old couples we have seen that I don't know how true it was. Maybe it was just on TV that they had separate beds as they got older and stuff like that. Back in the 60s, they showed that because Hollywood probably had a thing back in the 50s and 60s that, they can't be seen together in the same bed. So they had these twin beds that two twin beds in the same room. But however, maybe that was just Hollywood. But I would just, show it like The Notebook when they got older. You didn't see him making out with the lady. You seen how he expressed his love. But you see them as young couples making out. But once they got up in age, he just expressed his love. He had the dinner for her ready. He laid beside her in the bed. They died together. Stuff like that. But not making out with no young person, no. So anyway, let me read on. Connery is hardly the first actor to struggle with this dilemma. It even said that it contributed to his decision to turn down the Indiana Jones offer. Okay, they wouldn't show him running around, of course. He could have came just giving some advice to Indiana. It was not that generous. Okay, so it was not that generous a part. Connery told Heat Vision, the father of Indy was kind of really not that important. Unfortunately, there just aren't as many fulfilling roles in Hollywood for older actors. 007 Exile. Although Connery is proud to be Scottish, he did play in that movie a long time ago dealing with, well, even though he's Scottish, he played in a movie. I guess the place where the movie in the movie, I guess they was in Ireland or something like that. This was an old movie, one of those old 1960 movies or something like that, dealing with the Irish and all of that stuff. I only seen it once. Uh, uh, Probably dealing with leprechauns or whatever else. Uh, I wish I could go into more details, but I only seen it once. But I remember that song, and I'm not going to sing it on this page. But anyway, let me read on ahead. Although he is proud to be Irish, he rarely comes home these days, and it's not just because of a transatlantic flight can be taxing. What? Oh, I'm sorry, I read that wrong. And it's not just okay. So although Connery is proud to be Scottish, he rarely comes home these days, and it's not just because transatlantic flights can be taxing. Okay, I didn't read that wrong. It's just how the way it's worded. UK citizens who maintain a permanent residence abroad and lives there for most of the year can save a pretty big chunk on their taxes depending on where they settle down. Connery and his wife, Micheline Rockabrew, lives in the Bahamas, and they are only allowed to spend 90 days in the United Kingdom. So they are only allowed to spend 90 days in the United Kingdom each year to qualify for non-resident status at a healthy tax break. So the rich get richer and the poor get poor. Let me read on. While there's nothing technically illegal about this, Connery, so he gets a healthy tax breaks. And, Trump was giving a healthy tax break to the people back in 2018, to the rich. Uh, while there's nothing technically illegal about this, Connery came under fire for his tax exile status before the vote on Scottish independence in 2014. Uh, why did he advise Trump on how to do that? Because I know that once Trump get out of office, the state of New York is gonna come for him. Just saying. So he might want to become in Alabama, they don't play that. They want everybody to pay their taxes in Alabama. So if he decides to go out there with Ivy Kate, he better be big about paying those taxes. That's all I'm just saying. But he could move, he should have moved but then he wouldn't be president then if he had to move to the UK or stay there for 90 days and then get out of there and go to the Bahamas or whatever. While there's nothing While there's nothing technically illegal about this, Connery came under fire for tax exile status before the vote on Scottish independence. Wait a minute, before the vote on Scottish independence in 2014. Connery was a strong supporter of independence but didn't return to help rally voters, and his younger brother confirmed that it was because of his tax exile status. Naturally, this served as fuel for the opposing campaign, with one no supporter tweeting that if the Yes campaign prevailed, an independent Scotland could chase Connery for millions in back taxes. Well, that's okay. Well, if he had to live, him and Trump would have been having the same trouble. I mean, they said Trump only paid $700 in taxes for all these years. They've been, people, right before Trump became president, they was trying to see what his tax status was. And now we see Sean Connery, before he died, was doing his tax exile, spending time in the U. Was only allowed to spend 90 days in the UK, which was 3 months, to qualify for a non-resident tax, qualify for a non-resident status and a healthy tax break. So he was doing his tax exile. And see, you got people that sit up there and be chasing. You talk about poor people don't pay taxes. They do pay taxes. I mean, now people who probably make, let me see, probably less than 12,000. Well, even some of those pay taxes. They take taxes out of their paycheck. Every check that you make. I mean, if you do a where you filling out your tax forms or whatever, your W-2s, if you sit up there and hit the what is that, number 7 line, where it's tax exempt, you have to make sure that you file taxes every year so that you will be paying those people their money. Because if you could do a tax exempt to where they're not taking taxes out of your paycheck, they're going to take it out of your income taxes. When you go to file income taxes, you're going to have to pay. And if you don't file income taxes, they're coming after you. See, the only time you can sit up there and not file income taxes when they have been taking money out of your check and you know you don't owe them, they owe you. And some people decide not to file taxes that the government owe money back to because they might be they might have a garnishment, when student loans will take your taxes if you owe them. They would take whatever tax return you get back, they would take it. And that's only for those federal student loans that you have a garnishment or owe. Okay, that's why I hurried up and paid mine because I had to deal with that in the year 2002. I had moved to Georgia in 2001. That following year, that February 2002, I had still owed some money for going to college. It was just a little bit though. And I was supposed to get a $600 check back. And I wound up only getting $200 back of that. Because they took the rest of whatever money I owed them and told me to have a nice day. And so when I went to school in 2007, I was determined not to, never again, be owing them to the point where they taking it out of my own tax return. And thank God I was able to pay it off. But, these people, we have seen it with these movie stars, with Wesley Snipes, uh, Lauryn Hill was in tax trouble. Donald Trump. Donald Trump. I noticed that they had that story about him sending out those. I don't know if there was fake scholarships or whatever, to where they had this fake school or something like that going on, and these people money was being taken from them or something like that. I have to look more into it. It was mentioned right before he got elected, and then that story just went away. And then stories about these women that he is, has sex with, or that he put his hands on without their permission, started rolling out, and then some of that went away. We know about Stormy Daniels. She actually had sex with him while he was still married, of course. And then another lady claimed that, claimed that he put his hands on her some years ago. He tried to deny that, but we know now that those stories are not popping up anymore. But not, the story about his taxes are not neither, and I think because of the pandemic and what's going on with that, and people, this, I believe this election is going to determine, because of how the way this pandemic was handled, who's going to be our next president. And they might have already picked the next president anyway. Legend has it that they be picking the president at the Bohemian Grove. Okay, let me get back to Sean's Connery because it's getting, I got to take my shower immediately. I got to get ready to go out to the store since I'm up, come back and rest my eyes and some because I did fall asleep some, but I woke up at around 2. And because time has fallen back, all my clocks is an hour ahead. So anyway, legal woes. Uh-oh, we get into the legal woes. Unfortunately, exile status isn't Connery's only source of public tax drama. In 2010, he and his wife were investigated for property fraud in Marbella, uh, Marbella, I believe, Marbella, Spain. After the sale of their Marbella's property, Casa Malibu, they got involved with a development company that built more than 70 luxury apartments on the site without permission from local authorities. That's one thing, you have to have permission from local authorities. Uh, they could get you for that too. And I believe, and you're not even allowed in some states to sell stuff on a corner or nothing like that. I'm not talking about just prostitution, just your body. Um, Dinners, all of that without having a license to sell. And I know somebody in my family got in trouble years ago. And people thought it was prostitution. And I'm like, and I found out later in Georgia, you can't sell anything, a candy bar or anything, without having a license to sell, some type of permit or something like that. And even when I have worked for a company to where an advertising company or a company that sells stuff to businesses, we had to actually sell our product to the business, go inside their business and see if that business would like to sell this product. We could not go from door to door selling stuff. We had to sell the product basically to a business. So when somebody says somebody's soliciting, it's not always their body. It could be something that they're doing without a permit. And what they, and so this person wasn't sent to jail. And that's the thing that made me look at it like, okay, this is not prostitution because they would have had her locked up and everything. They just told her, you need to go back. You need to go home. You can't do that anymore. But here they got with a company, development company that built more than 70 luxury home apartments on the site without permission. You have permission from local authorities. To make matters worse, a huge portion of the profits was supposedly sent abroad to be stashed away in tax havens. Although Connery initially claimed that he was willing to cooperate with authorities, he also threatened to sue for damages. And in 2015, the couple was back in the spotlight again when Rockabroom was officially charged with Spanish property tax fraud for the sale of those illegal apartments. Connery was cleared of any charges, but the embarrassment certainly didn't help him move past the controversy over his tax exile status. Now, hear this. He isn't interested in going before the cameras, but Sean Connery has made a small exception to his retirement from acting voice work. Although Connery has remained true to his words about never appearing on screen in another film, you can hear his distinctive voice on a few projects that has been released since his retirement in 2003. Actually, I thought he retired in 2006. In 2005, Connery returned to the world of James Bond when he recorded voiceovers for the new video game version of his 1963 film From Russia with Love. Executive producer Glenn Schofield said Connery agreed for two reasons. From Russia with Love was his favorite Bond film, and his grandchildren loved video games. This might be a long paragraph because the man is dead now. Let me see. Let me roll up. Yeah, this is very long. Oh, okay. Because I think I've been doing this for, ooh, shoot, I done changed. You have to forgive me. Okay. Let me go back down. Okay. Ooh. Now here it is. He isn't interested in going back before the cameras, but Sean Connery has made a small exception to his retirement from acting voice work, although Connery has remained true to his words about never appearing on screen in another film. You can hear his distinctive voice in a few projects that has been released since his retirement in 2003. In 2005, Connery returned to the world of James Bond when he recorded voiceovers for the new video version of his 1963 film From Russia with Love. Executive producer Glenn Schofield said Connery agreed for two reasons. From Russia with Love was his favorite Bond film, and his grandchildren love video games. Connery also voiced the title character in the animated short Sir Billy the Vet, which was later expanded into a feature film and officially released in 2012. He also served as the executive producer for the extended version, wasn't but hasn't been back to the mic for a screen project since. Time change, even if attitudes don't. Although Sean Connery is still greatly admired by many, some of his past comments about women would give anyone pause. It is tough to interpret these quotes as anything other than sexist. Allegations from his first wife, actress Diane Salento, I think I'm pronouncing it right, Diane Salento, certainly didn't paint him in a better light. In a 1965 interview with Playboy, Connery was quoted as saying, "I don't think there's anything particularly wrong in hitting a woman, though I don't recommend you do it in the same way you hit a man." He made similar comments in a 1993 interview with Vanity Fair, flat out stating that sometimes when women argue with men, they want a smack. Oh, okay, so this do paint him as an abuser, kind of like, and not a gentleman. Connery claimed that his words were taken out of context. Really? But in 2006, Salento published her autobiography, in which she wrote that he had physically and mentally abused her. Connery denied all of her allegations, but his previous comment looked even worse after Salento's book was published. Connery even canceled an appearance a holy um, at a Hollywood festival of politics. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. a Hollywood Festival of Politics in 2006 because he was worried that he would be questioned about his relationship with Salento, but he wasn't. I'm sorry, it ain't no but in that. He wasn't on to say, I don't believe that any level of abuse of women is ever justified under any circumstances. So he went on to say, I don't believe that any level of abuse of women is ever justified under any circumstances. But for some, the apology came a little too late. So, if he had said this, that he believed that women deserve a smack during an argument, because I was thinking that he was talking about a little tap on the behind during sex or something like that. But he talked about hitting a woman. Yeah, he was abusive. Being a Scot. In 2004, Connery signed a contract to work with the ghostwriters and pulled out to a tell-all autobiography. He got a six-figure advance, which persuaded him to go back, or his initial refusal to ever write a memoir. But after trying to work through the process with two different ghostwriters, Connery decided to scrap the whole thing. He decided to scrap the whole thing, specifically saying he didn't want to rehash the claim made by his ex-wife. So he returned the advance and set the whole idea aside for several years. In 2008, Connery finally published his autobiography, Being a Scot, written in collaborations with author Murray Gigra. The book is about his own life growing up in Scotland and his journey to becoming a famous actor, as well as a look at Scotland's cultures and history. It's not the scandalous bestseller that Connery's original publisher wanted, but it seemed like Connery had more creative control over the contents. On the link. So, how does Sean Connery spend his days now? Well, if you ask him about how he spent in 2020 after October 31st, not only quiet and cold, somewhere in the box, probably because I don't know, because a lot of actors and actresses get cremated. I don't know if they're going to cremate him or not. I don't know, but how he spent his days, he ain't hardly moving, that's for sure. But in 2019, he has all the time in the world to spend indulging in his love of golf, which originated when he was filming the 1964 Bond movie Goldfinger. So he learned how to play golf during a James Bond movie Goldfinger. Okay, the film includes a scene in which Bond and the movie villain Euclid Goldfinger basically have a showdown on a golf course. It could be Augrek Goldfinger. That could be his name. Augrek Goldfinger. Basically have a showdown on a golf course. While practicing his golf game for the film, Connery got hooked on the sport. I began to see golf as a metaphor for living, he wrote in Being a Scot. For in golf, you are basically on your own, competing against yourself and always trying to do better. Today, Connery's home in the Bahamas is actually located on a golf course, and according to his son, Jason Connery, he can still hit a hole in one. So while you won't find Connery at movie premieres anymore, you might catch him playing golf in paradise. Okay, well, They might have a golf up there in heaven. It doesn't, a golf course rather, in heaven. It definitely not a bad way to spend retirement. It's definitely not a bad way to spend retirement. Wow. And that's it for Sean Connery. So we pray for the family, for God to give them comfort and peace. I'm looking at a couple of other actors that's has went on, one in particular. Um, but anyway, we pray for him and also the family of Rance Allen. We know we will never see Sean Connery again at any movies that come out in 2020 or any movies that come out next year because, he's no longer with us. We can't enjoy watching the James Bond films that he did back in the 60s and 70s and, um, look at the Irish movie that he did concerning leprechauns and stuff like that. Um, that's an old film. But again, I do have to talk about Hollywood and these culture films like Star Wars because I know people enjoy Star Wars and the Jedi and the Force. May the Force, we all have said it, may the Force be with you and stuff like that. Of course, that's in, I have to get deep into that. But James Connery, I'm sorry, Sean Connery, actually played in the Indiana movies, except for the last one that came out. But he played in that as Indiana Jones' father. And we know that, again, those movies, you had your black magic and stuff and that in those movies. But anyway, he was a great actor, very well-known actor, and he has his experience, and to be able to retire and to enjoy the rest of your life playing golf and doing that. All of us want to, be able to retire and to enjoy the rest of our life and stuff like that. So we have to make plans for this. This man, he was he made a lot of money doing movies, but a lot of us are not movie actors and actresses. We have different skill sets. A lot of us are in retail, but a lot of us are in manufacturing companies. A lot of us might be supervisors and all of that stuff. There are people who work in the medical field. There are people who are lawyers and stuff. But those who work at, who are the working middle class and all of that, or even the ones who are not considered middle class. We have to make preparations for retirement. We have to plan now. We can't depend on living off the kids and thinking that we'll always be taken care of like that. We have to do things. We have to make wise investment with our money. And this starts at a young age because once you start, having kids and having a house and bills to be paid and all of that stuff, now everything that you make have to go on, have to be used to provide for your family until they are grown. Um, and then again, you could start having the life that you want to have again after your kids move out. And, you have to plan for that. So, of course, you have to make wise decisions in your 20s, late teens, early 20s, about family and stuff like that to have your kids. And, by the time you get around your 40s, 50s, they're gone and stuff like that. I would encourage people before you even have a family because, having a family costs money. Just be honest. Having a family costs money. And if you don't have the type of job that Sean Connery has, as far as being in the movie industry, where you're making a lot of money, where you have to make wise investment, I would encourage people that's coming out of high school to go to college, to think about a career, to work in that career and to plan on retiring from that career, not moving from place to place, because people who go from job to job, they never are able to save the amount of money that they want to save. And then you got to think about it too. You want to have your benefits, medical benefits. It'd be a good idea to have life insurance at a young age. Get it while you're young, because the life insurance for people that's older are the cost is ridiculous. So it's best to get it younger because it's a lot cheaper for you when you are younger. And you never know what might happen because a lot of people don't live to be old. A lot of people die and they at the prime of their life. Um, so it'd be good to have life insurance to do that, to have life insurance and also some medical insurance, and you could get your medical through your job. It's very important to get a job that you're happy with, that you love, um, that you don't mind going to work every day, where you're getting along with everybody, um, and to stay with that, you know, as long as possible, possibly until you retire, get 40 years out of that, 30, 40 years out of it, and then you're able to retire from that job and be able to live off the pension and stuff like that, and you don't have to depend on your kids or nobody else, the government, nothing like that. Because and most of all, not only learn how to be wise with your money to invest, but to start eating right. And I know I have to start eating right myself. I had to change some diets. I had to eat less pork because I used to, around the holidays, ham was my favorite meat to eat. We would tear that ham up. We didn't make no ham sandwiches off the leftover ham because it was none left over after Thanksgiving or Christmas. The turkey was still there. And so we made sandwiches off of that. But that ham was gone the minute it hit the table. Of course, 4th of July, we had the ribs, the hot dogs going, the sausages. I used to love all of that. I still do. The sausages, all of that. The only thing I didn't like about pork was the pig feet, the pig, ham hocks. I didn't like those. But hot dogs, hot dogs and sausages and, whether it be breakfast sausages or sausages that they could grill on the grill. The ribs, the ham, all of that. Even the cold cut hams and stuff like that. I used to like to warm my ham up though and put it on the sandwich and everything else. But I had to cut away from that. And beef, I had to start eating less and less of that as well because I went from the pork ribs to the beef ribs and stuff and to the beef hot dogs and everything. And even the doctors tell me that it's not good for you to eat red meat and all that beef and stuff like that. So you have to think about your health. You have to eat more fruits, more vegetables, get more vitamin C's in you, get vitamin D's in you now. You don't want to have a hunchback or